This is Find Your Dream Job, the podcast that helps you get hired, have the career you want, and make a difference in life. I'm your host, Mac Pritchard. I'm also the founder of Mac's List. It's a job board in the Pacific Northwest that helps you find a fulfilling career. Every Wednesday, I talk to a different expert about the tools you need to get the work you want. Find Your Dream Job is brought to you by Top Resume. Top Resume has helped more than 400,000 professionals land more interviews and get hired faster. Get a free review of your resume today. Go to maxlist.org/topresume. Thanks to career sites like LinkedIn or Mac's List, it's never been easier to find open jobs. So, shouldn't you apply to as many as possible? Banji Alo is here to talk about why quality over quantity matters in your job applications. He's a career coach who helps professionals who work in data analytics. Banji is also the author of Before Graduation Day and the founder of the Career Digest weekly newsletter. He joins us from the city of Brisbane in Australia. Well, let's jump right into it, Banji. Why isn't it a good idea to send out lots and lots of job applications? After all, isn't it just a numbers game?
No, it's not a numbers game, Mark. So especially, when you're working with job applications, it's not necessarily a numbers game. Yes, I understand the fact that, in life, quantity beats quality, but unfortunately here, not with job applications. And I would actually advise that job seekers actually put quality first before quantity, because it's never a numbers game.
Why do you see applicants do this? You coach a lot of professionals in the data analytics field and elsewhere. Why are they putting quantity before quality, Banji?
Well, because it's fast, Mark. Yeah, so because it's faster to actually apply to 100 jobs, in 2 hours than actually to apply to one job in the same hour. So it's fast. It's also very easy because you really don't have to do much. So all you really have to do is just to get your resume, then upload to the job site. So which is actually really good, but not very good, Mac. And the other reason why why I see a few people actually do it is that they feel a sense of accomplishment. So you apply to all these jobs and instantly, you feel a sense of accomplishment, within you. And it actually honestly does feel very good, especially when you're getting confirmation emails in your mailbox that you've applied to this job. So having 100 of them within 2 hours, that's a big deal to some people.
I know we're going to talk in a moment about what you should focus on instead of activity, like you just described. But I'm curious, Banji, we've all seen those news stories about an applicant who sent out several hundred resumes and never heard back and hasn't gotten any offers. What do you think as a career coach when you see a story like that?
Yeah, look, I think, most people don't hear back because on the other side of things, where the employers actually review the resume, they know instantly that, look, this application or resume has not been modified accordingly for that particular job. So I guess, that's really why they don't hear back. And look, as a recruiter myself, it's very easy for me to spot a resume, that has been dumped, just on the job site as a numbers game.
So one of your recommendations that instead of sending out large number of applications, and as part of putting quality before quantity, is that you understand as a candidate what matters to an employer before you hit the send button. Why is it important to do this, Banji?
Yeah, so I think it's actually very important because in the end, this job applications isn't really about the job seeker, but instead it's actually about the job, which is the company in question. So you actually really want to make sure that that your resume or your application has been written just for that one employer, because obviously employers know these things. They know when an application hasn't been written for them. So it's actually very important for you to make sure that your application has been written just for that employer. And ultimately, like I said earlier, you actually want to put them first, because most job applications, if not all of them, they're not about you, but instead they're actually about the employer.
Some listeners might be surprised to hear that because they don't want to let go of their own interests and their own goals. How do you recommend accomplishing both, Banji, thinking both about the needs of the employer and about your goals for your next job and your own career as a candidate?
That's a very good question, Mark. So I like to see a job application, as a Venn diagram. So imagine where you have a Venn diagram. So a Venn diagram is just, imagine a circle and another circle then intersected just right at the middle. So you've got your own goals, your own values, what you want, your interest on the left-hand side. And then on the right-hand side, you've got that of the employer, okay? So what you really want to be focusing on at this stage is just that middle part, where your goals, your interests, and what you can do, your skills, your competencies actually intersect in the middle with that of the employer. So the fact that, a job application is about the employer does not necessarily mean that you don't have to understand your own values or put forward your own values and your skills, but instead it just means that you should put what the employers actually want first and see how these intersect with your own skills and goals.
Well, let's talk more about the needs of the employer and how you reflect that in your applications. I know one of the first suggestions you make in putting quality over quantity in your job applications is that a candidate take a look at the job description. And really that is the first step in your process. Tell us more about this, Banji. Why should an applicant do that, and how is it going to help them?
Okay, so you obviously want to have a read first, just to really understand what the employer wants, because as an employer, for example, I've taken some time to actually this application and put it out there on the internet. So as a job seeker, if it's something that you're interested in, so I think, the first thing that you really have to do is to have a read first, that would actually really help you understand what the employers want. And that would actually also help you decide, even whether the job is actually the right one for you. So I think having a read and at the job description first, it's actually very beneficial just to see whether that job is right for you and just really understand what the employer needs.
And when you're reviewing that job description to get those answers to the questions you just raised a moment ago, is the job description alone enough, or should you be looking at other sources as well?
At first, most job descriptions are at the first instance, they're mostly enough. Just have a read first. So usually, employers they tell you what they want at the job description first, and then so I think most times it actually contains almost all the information you need. So you probably find 70 to 80% of your answers there. However, if you're wanting more, which is the step 2 of the process, then I usually encourage applicants to actually get in touch with the hiring manager. It actually doesn't hurt at all. If you've read the job description and then you feel that you still have 1 or 2 questions, then you just email the hiring manager and ask them.
Well, let's pause there because I want to talk more about that second step. And you've got 3 steps you recommend every candidate take that will help them put quality over quantity in job applications. So we're going to take a break. When we come back, Banji Alo will continue to share his advice on why with job applications, quality is always better than quantity. Stay with us. Quality always matters in a resume. How good is yours? Go to maxlist.org/top resume. The experts at Top Resume will review your resume for free. Go to maxlist.org/top resume. Learn how you can fix your resume by yourself or hire Top Resume to do it for you. Go to maxlist.org/top resume. Now let's get back to the show. We're back in the MaxList studio. I'm talking with Banji Alo. He's a career coach who helps professionals who work in data analytics. Banji is also the author of Before Graduation Day and the founder of the Career Digest weekly newsletter. He joins us from the city of Brisbane in Australia. Before our break, Banji, we were talking about why quality over quantity matters in your job applications. We talked in that first segment about why it can feel rewarding to send out lots and lots of applications, but instead you recommend candidates focus on a three-step process. And we talked about your first step, and you touched on your second one, which is to reach out to the person doing the hiring as you prepare your application. You encourage listeners to get in touch with a area manager or someone else who's involved in the hiring. I know some listeners will wonder, well, how do you do this, Banji? And how do you find these people? And when you do connect with them, what do you ask? What are your thoughts there?
So it's a very good idea to actually get in touch with the hiring manager in this case. So obviously the first thing that you want to do is to have a read at the JD, the job description here. So usually, even though the company is actually reading out every single thing that you need to know, but you might actually want to ask yourself that, look, given that I've got this right in front of me, what are the other information or the other things that I wish I knew right before this job, or before I actually apply at all for this job. So, for example, the job description might not include information about the tools that you need at the job, for example, which is why I always recommend that you actually go after the hiring manager and just email them or ring them and then ask one or two or three really useful questions. Obviously you don't want to ask a question that's already been written down in the job description. So you want to ask something that's not there at all, just so it actually shows that you read it first. Also that it shows that you're really interested, in this job. And you can find the contact details, email addresses, for example, of the manager, of the recruiter usually on the job description. And if you can't, then if it's nowhere there, then you probably want to go online and do some research, or maybe just ring the company and actually ask them that, look, you're interested in this job that you found online. So, who is the best person to actually talk to?
And do you recommend doing this by email, or is it better to try to set up an old-fashioned telephone call or a Zoom call?
I recommend via email. Okay. So once you get their email addresses, I think it's usually the best approach for me. And that's what I tend to recommend to most people. However, when drafting that email, I understand that it's actually easier for some hiring manager just to actually, to call you instead to actually, just to really discuss over the phone. So what I usually recommend is that, so after the email, so when you're wrapping up, you can say, if you prefer to discuss, here is my phone number. I'm happy for you to give me a ring. So that way you leave them with two options. So it's either they respond to your email or it's either they give you a call, depending on what they like. So either way, it's a win-win for you. And then emails generally just work best because most people are actually busy on the other end as well, Mark. So you also want to give them the time to actually respond to you and give you, the exact information that you need when it's convenient for them.
Can you share examples of the kinds of questions a candidate might ask, or especially you you're both a coach and a recruiter, that you as a recruiter might get and would think, oh, of course I can help with that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sure, Mark. So I like to ask a few questions, Mark. So usually the first set of question that I tend to ask, noting my background in data and analytics, is what sort of tools that you use within the team. So, for example, I want to know what tools that that you use in the team, whether it's something that I already use or whether it's something I might need to learn. When I get the job and I start. And then the other question that I tend to ask a lot is around what my immediate work deliverables will be, when I start a job. So I think the second one is actually a very good question, because I want to know what challenges that the team actually has at the moment, and what you actually expect me to get running with up and running with as soon as possible. So which is more like a 60 or 90-day kind of plan, Mark.
Having this exchange with the hiring manager is going to give you information that will help with your own application. And but are there other benefits as well? What are typical reactions from hiring managers when they receive emails like this, and especially if they might lead to a short conversation?
Yeah, sure, Mark. So I think it feels good, honestly, when you actually read an email from a job seeker who just read the job that you posted online or anywhere. It shows that that someone is actually really interested, that someone actually read the job description and really interested. So it actually really makes them feel very happy, and more often than not, they're usually more than happy to help you with any other questions that you have outside the job description. And then sometimes, Mark, I've actually done that in the past, and they said, actually, this job was advertised 7 months ago, and we found someone, and then we did not remember to remove it from the job board. So it's always a good idea, not just to actually get more information, but sometimes to also even know whether the job description is still valid at the point when you're applying.
Well, we've talked about step one and step two of your 3-step process that helps candidates put quality over quantity. The first was look at that job description, study it. And second was reach out to the hiring manager. Your third step, Banji, is to take the research that you've learned from reviewing the posting and your email exchange or conversation with a hiring manager and apply it to your application. What's the best way to do this? What do you recommend?
Yeah, sure, Mark. So usually, once you have all this information from the online ad that you've got, as well as the bits and pieces that the hiring manager has actually sent to you, either via email or via responding to your to you via a telephone call. So you actually want to get this information and customize your resume and your cover letter and apply for that job. So I like to actually use the information that I get outside the job description in my cover letter, because most times that's really what employers really need, and that's really what that they're after. So, for example, I might have actually asked them over email that, look, what tools do you use on this job, and what are your immediate work priorities for me when I start. So, and these are things that I actually really want to highlight, especially in my cover letter, because not so many people will actually have that information. So to me, I think, that's a bonus, So to answer your question, so once you actually get all this information, then you really want to have a seat and customize your cover letter. And if you want as well, and this is what I also recommend, that you actually add a cover letter, because it actually just helps you. It gives you that bit of extra space to actually write that customized letter to the hiring manager. Definitely.
And finally, Banji, how does following these three steps, studying the job posting, talking to the hiring manager, applying what you learned to your application, and then ultimately sending out fewer applications, how does doing all these things separate you from your competitors?
Yeah, that's a good question, Mark. So yeah, so even though even though it feels like work, because it is actually a lot of work, to read a job description, and then reaching out to a hiring manager and then applying. But I think it has a lot of benefit, because it actually really helps you send out a specific resume and cover letter for that particular job. And then, and then because you've also reached out directly, to the hiring manager. So most of them somehow in their subconscious will actually be expecting your, to actually, they will actually be expecting to see your application, so which is really good as well. On the other hand, if you did not, do that in the first place, then you're just applying to 100 jobs, within 2 hours, then that doesn't really show that you've done, much research and work in that space, Mark.
Well, it's been a terrific conversation, Banji. Now tell us, what's next for you?
Sure, Mark. So at the moment, I'm just writing up my next book. It's a careers book as well. It's for migrants, and the goal is to really help them to navigate the career challenges that they face in their new country. So yeah, so that's really what I'm working on at the moment.
Well, good luck with the second book, and congratulations on the first one. Well, I know listeners can learn more about your first book and your services by going to your website, banjialo.com. We'll be sure to include that link in the show notes and the website article. And that you also invite people to connect with you on LinkedIn. And if they do so, I hope they'll mention they heard you on Find Your Dream Job. Now, Banji, given all the great advice you've shared today, what's the one thing you want a listener to remember about why quality over quantity matters in your job applications?
Okay, look, it's all about how well, and how good your application is, and not really about the numbers game, like how many that you're able to get done within 1 hour.
Make sure you never miss an episode of Find Your Dream Job. Subscribe to our free podcast newsletter. You'll get information about our guests and transcripts of every show. Go to maxlist.org/newsletters. Again, that's maxlist.org/newsletters. Next week, our guest will be Brandon Bramley. He's the founder of The Salary Negotiator. Brandon's company helps you negotiate your new job offer and secure the pay you deserve. We've all heard the saying, you get what you ask for. But when it comes to talking about your salary for your next job, you may not ask for what you want. And when this happens, you leave money on the table. Join us next Wednesday when Brandon Bramley debunks 10 myths about job search salary negotiations. Until next time, thanks for letting us help you find your dream job. This show is produced by MaxList. Susan Thornton Hoff schedules our guests and writes our newsletter. Lisa Kislen-Barry Anderson manages our social media. Our sound engineer is Matt Fiorillo. Ryan Morrison at Podfly Productions edits the show. Dawn Moore creates our transcripts, and our music is by Freddie Trujillo. This is Mac Pritchard. See you next week.